The Prussian Army always attacks. So echoes the oath within the hallowed wall of the Königsberg Cathedral, whispered by the faithful and thundered by soldiers before the altar of the Iron Saints. The words are ancient, born not from arrogance, but from desperation, from the ruinous ashes that birthed the Free State of Prussia after the fall. Once, before the world drowned in mud and blood, Prussia had been a land of kings and generals, its name a byword for discipline and resolve. But when the heretic scourge rose and the old world perished in the fires of the great cataclysm, the proud nation was shattered. What remained crawled from the ashes with nothing but their faith, their scars, and their will to fight. In the first century after the fall, from ruined Königsberg arose the Free State of Prussia, a realm both reborn and haunted. Its borders were drawn in mud and martyrdom. Its people were those who refused to kneel to despair. Their creed was shaped not by victory, but by the acceptance of endless war, that every hour, every dawn would bring another march, another assault, another chance to die with honour, rather than fade into cowardice. To be Prussian in this new world was not to live, it was to endure, and from that endurance came their most sacred principle. The Prussian army always attacks. For in a world where even the angels bled, only those who advanced could claim to serve God's will. To attack was not simply a tactic, it was a liturgy. Every charge was a sermon, every grenade a psalm, and every death a confession. And within this crucible was born the Stosstruppen, the storm troops of the Free State. In them, the Prussian ideal found its purest expression, an unflinching willingness to sprint into the maw of death, trade their humanity for legend. In the echoing vaults of Königsberg Cathedral, the chosen would kneel before their altar, their faces lit by candlelight, as the oath was spoken over them. Steel is the prayer, blood is the offering. The Prussian army always attacks. To swear this vow was to renounce peace. It was to live with clenched fists and gritted teeth, to hone one's body into a living weapon and one's soul into iron. It was to accept that victory was transient, but honour eternal. From the moment of initiation, a Stosstruppen was expected to run towards the guns, never from them. In the Free State, even the children are raised beneath the sound of martial hymns. Wooden rifles are placed in their hands before they can read. History lessons begin with the names of the Iron Saints, the first soldiers who stood against the tides of heresy, and those who have been lost to the unending war, and end with the reminder that weakness is a luxury the faithful cannot afford. The elderly too contribute, weaving uniforms, casting bullets, or reciting the creed of attack to young recruits before deployment. In this way, the cycle of defiance never breaks. Such willingness to face impossible odds is what makes the Stosstruppen the stuff of legend amongst the myriad regiments of the Principality of New Antioch. But it is their training that brings these legends to life. At their heads march the Hauptmann, officers of renowned tactical acumen, their leadership both an honour and a curse. In the Free State of Prussia, it is said that a Hauptmann must either lead his men to victory or die upon the field, for the social code of their nation would rather see a commander fall in glory than retreat in shame. These leaders wield massive, impossibly sharp, tank-splitter swords, cleaving through heretic armour, as a fencer would cut with a foil. By their sides walked the Feldkaplan, the priest-chaplains of war, robed in armour, shaped like the angels of old. They stride through the smoke and ruin, wielding burning blades, holy prayer, and grenades filled with frankincense and myrrh. Their explosions leaving clouds that smell of the tomb and the altar. Their presence sanctifies the slaughter, reminding the soldiers that even in the darkest trench, God's gaze remains upon them. And at the core stand the Stosstruppen, chosen for their aggression, endurance, and athletic grace. They are drilled ceaselessly in lightning assaults, grenade warfare, and brutal close-quarters combat. Despite their cultivated fury, their coordination is unmatched. They have, as one body, a living storm, advancing in fire teams to deliver hammer-blow assaults that tear through the enemy fortifications like the wrath of heaven. And behind them come the yeomen, less specialized but no less vital. They secure objectives, hunt down fleeing foes, and hold the ground bought in blood. While Prussian warbands prefer to march fast and light, they are often supported by combat engineers, armed with demolition charges to clear the paths for the charge, combat medics to drag the fallen from the mud, and mechanized heavy infantry whose roaring engines provide brief, thunderous reprieve. Above them, the sniper priests of the holy orders watch from afar, delivering sacred ammunition across no man's land, their rifles inscribed with scripture and vengeance alike. Among all these storied regiments, none shine brighter in the memory than the 6th Gardekorps of Königsberg, the exemplars of Prussian fury and faith. The 6th Gardekorps rose to prominence during the Battle of the Princes, one of the most infamous campaigns of the Heretic Wars. The battle raged across a labyrinth of trenches, stretching from the Black Forest to the desecrated ruins of former Württemberg. The 6th found itself surrounded, pinned in a web of enemy fortifications. Yet, where lesser formations might have broken, the 6th counterattacked with inhuman precision. Under the command of Frau Hauptmann Frederica von Goltz, the 6th performed an oblique order maneuver that has since become legend. While the central and eastern fronts held their position, the western fire team pivoted behind enemy lines, collapsing the heretic flank in a hammer and anvil strike, so violent that even the faithful chroniclers were unsure how many trenches changed hands in those 2 days. Over a dozen enemy lines were shattered under the relentless grenade barrages and close quarters slaughter. For every yard gained, the ground was bought in blood, and yet the 6th never ceased its assault. When the smoke cleared, only a third of their number remained, but the heretic host had been driven into a full retreat. It was said the earth itself wept, the mud so thick with blood that even the angels hesitated to tread upon it. The lineage of the Free State of Prussia is adorned with noble bloodlines that trace back to the Teutonic Order. Among them, the House of von Goltz stood proud, but Frederica von Goltz refused to rest upon the laurels of history. From childhood, she was trained in swordsmanship by the greatest blade masters money could buy, some even rumoured to hail from the Far East. When she came of age, she defied tradition, challenging the prohibition against women serving in the Stosstruppen. To prove her worth, she undertook the same brutal trials as any man, including the infamous Mensur duels, where the contest ends only when one combatant flinches or falls. Frederica never flinched. She earned her scars as badges of devotion, her face a map of her determination. At the head of the 6th Gardekorps, she wielded her Aracalcum alloy tank splitter sword with deadly grace, slicing through steel, concrete, and heretics alike. Her leadership was questioned by traditionalists who whispered of nepotism and noble privilege. The 6th silenced such voices with a simple offer. Any who doubted their Frau Hauptmann could face her in a duel. None ever accepted. A veteran of countless campaigns, Rudolf Leopold III served as both a spiritual advisor and second in command to von Goltz. He was among the few who saw her, truly saw her, and the fire of her true faith, and his endorsement was instrumental in her ascension. In battle, Leopold carried a tank splitter sword of his own and wielded it with ferocious devotion. It was whispered that he requested deployment patterns that ensured he could justify the use of this cherished stimulant. Holy smoke, a chemical concoction said to flood the mind with visions of divine wrath, and whether miracle or madness, none could deny the fury it unleashed in him when battle was joined. Jens von Bismarck was an older recruit, noble by birth but late to glory. His peers outpaced him in speed and strength, but he proved his worth in the communicant wrestle, a trial wherein aspirants faced towering giants of blessed blood. Jens, though overmatched, broke a communicant's arm through cunning and precision, exploiting an unseen weakness. Frederica saw in him a mind suited to survival, a soldier who could read the battlefield as a duelist reads its foe. He was accepted into the 6th and became one of her most trusted field sergeants. An orphaned youth burdened with responsibility, Ludwig von Jahn buried his parents at 14 and raised his younger brother Lars. The trauma shaped him into a hunter of men. Quiet, patient, and deadly, his talent for stalking prey through the ruins of the old world made him the 6th Pathfinder. It is said that Ludwig spoke little, for every word spent was a breath that could instead serve the hunt. But his heart beat only for his brother, and his resolve was bound to the promise of keeping Lars alive amidst the storm. The younger Lars von Jahn followed his brother into the Stosstruppen ranks, abandoning a future in metallurgy for the crucible of war. Though 1 year younger, he forever saw himself as the lesser. Yet in battle, Lars' ferocity outstripped even Ludwig's. He once felled an anointed warrior with nothing but 2 splintered trench clubs and his bare bloodied fists. He fights to prove himself, unaware that in his brother's eyes he already has. Lean and wiry, Hans Plamen earned the nickname Kleine or Little, but in spirit he was anything but. His face and laughter were infectious, his optimism unbreakable. In the 6th, he was given the ceremonial duty of carrying the regimental glockenspiel, whose rhythmic chimes rang across the battlefield to signal charges and victories. The others joked that if he were half as good with a rifle as he was with music, he would be unstoppable. Yet none would trade him for the world. Barely a man grown, Hugo von Ense was handpicked by von Goltz herself. His marksmanship was steady, his courage quiet, yet it was his gentle spirit that made him special. Between battles, Hugo wrote poems, verses of home, of faith, of brothers lost. Though none would admit it aloud, many in the 6th wept when he read them. His words carried a vision of a world beyond the trenches, one of peace, art, and light, though if that world can ever return is unknown. Otto Laubach was a man of skill but little patience. Denied promotion to Stosstruppen for breaking formation during a coordinated drill, he accepted his punishment with grim resolve. In the field, he sought redemption through selfless acts, risking his life to retrieve the wounded or burn heretics from their bunkers with his flamethrower. His loyalty was expressed not in words, but in deeds that left scars upon him and the enemy. The 6th Gardekorps became the living embodiment of the Prussian creed. Songs of their deeds echoed through the trenches of New Antioch, and even the grim Templar commanders of the Holy Orders spoke their name with respect. Their discipline was legendary, their ferocity unmatched. To serve in the 6th was to know that death was certain, but dishonor was impossible. When the Battle of the Iron Spires came, a conflict so brutal that the sky itself turned black with ash, the 6th was among the first deployed. They held the western approach for 3 days and nights, their ammunition long spent, resorting to blades, clubs, and bare hands. When relief forces arrived, they found the Prussian banner still flying, planted amid corpses and ruin. Not a single man had retreated. Throughout the centuries, the phrase, "the Prussian Army always attacks," has become both proverb and prophecy. The successors of the modern Stosstruppen of Prussia carry their forebears' scars in spirit, wearing helmets inscribed with the same vow. Each generation renews the oath within the cathedral's walls, before the relics of the Iron Saints, promising to continue the eternal charge until the world is made whole. The theologians of the Holy Orders often debate whether the Prussians' unending assault is madness or divine will. Some say it is faith in its purest form, a rejection of despair through perpetual defiance. Others whisper that it is a curse, that Prussia's soul is forever bound to war, unable to rest. But for the Prussians themselves, there is no question. To hesitate is heresy. To advance is salvation. Steel is the prayer. Blood is the offering. The Prussian army always attacks. And so the march continues, across the mud, through the ruins and into the fire, for as long as men still draw breath in New Antioch, and as long as heretics yet defy the Lord, the warriors of the Free State of Prussia shall rise again, bearing their ancient creed into every storm. The Prussian army always attacks. What you just heard there was the lore dropped recently by the Trench Crusade Instagram and the Trench Crusade team about the 6th Gardekorps of Prussia. I must say, I am extremely happy with this lore drop. A few things immediately stood out to me. At first, when I was reading this, I was confused on what timing this takes place at, but then I realized, oh, it's the modern 1914 year in Trench Crusade, because this is the story, or a potential story, of the troops you receive if you buy the Prussian Shock Trooper bundle warband, which I might do myself. The Free State of Prussia other than obviously Era, is probably my favorite faction. It's up there. It goes, I think, Era, the Free State, and then New Antioch itself. They are just such a cool design, and I'm loving their lore. A few things I found very interesting about this lore drop. The first, Frederica von Goltz, seems very much to be a turn on Frederick the Great, with the use of an oblique order to defeat a undefeatable enemy, which is something that Frederick the Great did. It was something he was famous for. I'm surprised they didn't just make her have a quote of "Who wants to live forever?" But I feel that could actually really work well in this setting. But there is no doubt that Frederica von Goltz must be in some way related to Frederick the Great. Very much is a play on Frederick the Great, and I hope we get more on them because, honestly, it just sounds really fun. Now, I don't recognize all the names. I assume a lot of them are just ones that haven't been taken from history. If they aren't, and you guys know who Laubach or Ense is, or Plamen, or Jan, tell me. But Leopold and Bismarck are both second names that are very famous in history. Personally, I would love to hear more about, I assume, Jens von Bismarck's older ancestor, who's probably dead at this point in the story, but would have been around in the 18th centuries, Otto von Bismarck. Otto von Bismarck was the Iron Chancellor. He is the man who made Prussia what Prussia was by the time of the First World War. He is the man who held the Great Convention. He was the man who joined the Germanic lands into the German Empire out of Prussia, with Prussia at the head and not Austria. He is such an interesting character in history, and I love that the fact that they brought in to show that Jens von Bismarck is absolutely related to Otto von Bismarck is his love for wrestling. Otto von Bismarck was the wild man Bismarck. He was known for a great deal of ridiculous things, so I'm glad that has been enshrined in the lore of Trench Crusade, that Otto von Bismarck almost certainly existed, and his descendants are still out there wrestling communicants of all things. I would love to see if there is a higher political person in Prussia that is obviously of the family of Bismarck. I would assume there has to be. I assume Otto von Bismarck is a key character in Trench Crusade lore as well, and just as Joan of Arc is. And it seems Frederick the Great, I'm sure, will make an appearance at some point. I remember Thomas telling, I actually don't remember who he was talking to at the time, but in an interview, he mentioned that he does like to bring in historical characters and he does like to see what they would do in this world. So, please, Thomas, tell me, please, is Otto von Bismarck in Trench Crusade? And will we be seeing anything of him? If you watch this video, I know you watched some of my videos, and thank you for that. I have absolutely adored this lord. I think it's so fun. Leopold is also a very important name in German history. Leopold I was a Holy Roman Empire who consolidated Habsburg power after the 30 Years' War and fought against the Ottomans and France. So, in this world where the Holy Roman Empire still exists, maybe the line of Leopold is still rather important, and this is a offshoot or a descendant of the Leopold branch, which would explain why he is good at fighting and close quarters war and bringing people together, as he is the Feldkaplan in the 6th Gardekorps. I don't know much about Leopold I, so I can't really compare them. But still, it's cool to see these historically important names. I'm sure the others are important too, I just don't really know them off the top of my head. But yeah, I have absolutely loved this lore drop. Now, I have already made a video on the Free State of Prussia. I believe I should probably have put this at the start, but that video is very much a grounding for this one. You should definitely watch that video first. I tried to give a little summary of it at the start of this, mentioning the units and how important they are and what they do. But if you found that wasn't enough for you, please take a look at the Free State of Prussia, and maybe even to just refresh yourself on the lore and history of the real State of Prussia and its history and how it relates to Trench Crusade, because that is what I did in that video, and I don't want to just repeat myself in multiple videos. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. I know I really have. This has been definitely one of the better lore reveals in a while. They're on a really good run here. The Maximilian Knights were really cool. And now we got this. Hopefully it keeps up. I hope that they're in Essen at the moment, which is in Germany, which actually makes a lot of sense as to why they released a German lore drop for it. Hopefully they come to Ireland at some point, please. Please. I want to talk to you guys. I want more lore. Yeah, hopefully they come to Ireland and release more Irish lore or something. But I hope there is major developments in Essen. They released a really cool life-size model of a Prussian heavy mechanized infantryman. I have definitely used it in this video, but I want to see that in real life, and sadly I am not in Germany, and it is too expensive to go over. So please come here. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Any interaction with the video at all, comments, likes, hyping, it all helps the channel grow. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next lore drop.